Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. Yesterday, Paul Heyman did an interview with SI Media Podcast talking about all things that are going down in wrestling. It was a very, very good interview. But during the interview, the topic of CM Punk was brought up. I know that Paul Heyman is a guy that people look at as a friend of CM Punk, but I sort of don't understand why people won't leave the CM Punk talk alone. Honestly, in my mind, CM Punk left wrestling. He put it behind him. He moved on to another chapter into his life, and that is now mixed martial arts. MMA was something that he was really into as a fan while he was a professional wrestler. And I'm sure that maybe if you go back to 2000, 2001, maybe if he would have thought about a different lifestyle, maybe mixed martial arts would have been where Phil Brooks, CM Punk, would have made his name. And you got to give it up to this guy for being able to, step away from what he thought was his lifelong dream and immediately step into, a new profession. I mean, like, this guy trained, not religiously, but, in his free time, trained jiu-jitsu. He watched, MMA, he watched UFC, and all of a sudden, he just quits WWE, and within no time at all, he announces that he is signed with UFC, that he is, going to be training to become a UFC fighter. There was rumors out there that CM Punk was thinking about doing something with UFC or with any MMA organization, and I think a lot of people thought that he was just going to use his fandom, whatever the word is I'm looking for, just, all of the knowledge that he's gained from, being a fan and all the connections that he has, and just become some sort of announcer. I know that's what Stone Cold Steve Austin thought that the next page was for CM Punk once he left WWE. And that was the announcement that I was looking for, but I think everybody was out there. They were watching UFC that night when CM Punk popped up on the screen, and made the announcement that he was joining, UFC, and immediately said that he was a fighter and that he was going to fight. But basically, the people asked Paul Heyman, what is the possibility of CM Punk ever returning to WWE? And I know that, like I said earlier, CM Punk and Paul Heyman are friends. They coexist because, they were both in the same place at the same time. Paul Heyman wasn't the trainer of, I believe, Ohio Valley, but he was the the booker, the guy who put him in charge. And if you go back and you watch that Best in the World DVD, you see that, there was times when WWE was telling Paul Heyman, you need to fire CM Punk. We don't have anything for this guy. He's not going anywhere. He's not a part of the system. And Paul was thinking that CM Punk was great, and he was involved in a lot of the angles that were going on his television, and didn't want to let him go, and basically said, it's not my job to fire these guys. If you want to fire him, you fire him. And it was almost like WWE was scared of him. Like they didn't want to approach him. They didn't want to make this guy mad. And, one thing leads to another, and he gets bumped up, and he's I guess you can say he was the face of ECW when it started before being moved to the Raw brand, and he just kept on inching his way up the top. He wins the Money in the Bank, cashes in, becomes World Heavyweight Champion, doesn't have the greatest run, goes back to WrestleMania the next year, wins the Money in the Bank again. This time he cashes in on Jeff Hardy, and he has more of a bigger run because it's a heel run. They main event, SummerSlam with the TLC match. He makes, Jeff Hardy leave the territory. From there it rolls into the Straight Edge Society, and he just keeps on clawing his way up the card. It was, I think one of the best runs in professional wrestling, just because of how much of this guy was an underdog, how much WWE didn't want to make this guy the face of the company, and basically by his contract expiring becomes the face of the company and becomes the guy that they can't let go because of how popular and how much he is driving WWE at the time, around Money in the Bank that year. But Paul Heyman said that, basically he's living another dream. He doesn't feel that, CM Punk will ever, return to WWE. I think he used the word that he was stubborn, and that it just, would be, way too many steps backwards on his journey through life. I think that CM Punk was a great wrestler. I don't think there's a chance we'll ever see him make an appearance like the Ultimate Warrior coming back to WWE. I don't think we'll ever see him wrestle another match, whether if it's for ROH, TNA, WWE, New Japan. I think that when he left WWE, I think that WWE killed professional wrestling for him, and I think that's something he's never going to look back on. I got a little bit of a thought in the back of my mind that, you know, when he made the crack about the Komen Foundation and breast cancer awareness, I thought that it was pretty funny that he chose to make this during Raw when they were making the Monday Night Raw, you know, presentation in the ring. I don't know if this means that he, you know, saw people tweeting about it, so he decided to tweet about it, or if he was actually watching Monday Night Raw. But in my mind, I don't think CM Punk has the network, and I don't think CM Punk's watched Monday Night Raw since he left. But I'm not 100% sure. If you know that he's said anything in an interview, in a podcast, or anything like that, let me know, because I'd like to know if Punk is still a wrestling fan.